I'm Adam, 27, and I used to think that family meant something. That no matter how messy things got, you could count on the people you grew up with to at least pretend to have your back. But I've learned that sometimes the ones closest to you are the quickest to erase you when it's convenient. And the way I found out was at a Christmas party. It was my mother's annual holiday extravaganza, held at her place like clockwork every December. Think themed tablecloths, cinnamon candles, the fake fireplace playing on loop, and 25 relatives packed into her home like it was some Hallmark movie set. I hadn't missed a single one. Even during finals in college, or when I had the flu 2 years ago, I showed up. Because I was raised to show up. This year, I had gone all out. My job at the tech firm had gone incredibly well, big bonus, major promotion, and for once, I wanted to treat my family. I thought maybe this time, they'd see me as more than the quiet one, the nerd, or the weird cousin who never really fit in. I had spent weeks picking out personalized, luxury gifts. A $1,200 espresso machine for my coffee snob brother Liam. A silk scarf from Milan for my fashion-obsessed Aunt Denise. Even a limited edition watch for Dad, engraved. I had it all perfectly wrapped, tagged, packed neatly in a designer duffel bag. I showed up early that evening, hoping to help with setup. When I rang the bell, my younger sister Marcy opened the door and looked mildly surprised to see me. "Oh, hey," she said, stepping aside. "Didn't think you'd be this early." She didn't move to hug me. Inside, the air was thick with gingerbread and tension. People were milling around, fake smiling, clinking glasses. No one turned when I entered. No warm Adam. "You made it," like the years before. Just that weird, empty space between glances. Still, I smiled, nodded at a few cousins, and tucked the duffel bag near the fireplace. I found my mom in the kitchen, carving a ham with a bit too much force. "Hey, Ma." She glanced at me over her shoulder. "Oh, Adam. You came." "Of course." I said I would. She didn't answer, just went back to slicing. I brushed it off, figuring maybe she was just stressed. It wasn't until an hour later, glass of cider in hand, standing by the snack table, that I said it. The thing that pulled the whole thread loose. "I can't wait for the family reunion tomorrow," I said casually, turning to my brother Liam. "It'll be good to see everyone together again." Liam snorted into his drink, nearly choking. "What?" "That was last weekend." I blinked. "What?" He looked at me like I was the fool. "The reunion. We already had it. At Uncle Don's cabin." "Don't tell me you didn't know." I turned slowly to my Aunt Denise, who was always live posting everything she did. "You're joking, right?" She pulled out her phone, a smirk on her lips, and flipped through photo after photo. All of them smiling, laughing, toasting marshmallows. Liam doing karaoke. Marcy in matching pajamas with my cousins. Dad in his hideous fishing hat. Even my mother, hugging everyone by the bonfire. I wasn't in a single picture. Because I wasn't there. I felt my stomach turn to stone. My hands went cold. No one invited me. My mom stepped in just then, drying her hands on a towel. "We didn't think you'd want to come," she said, like it was obvious. "You're always so busy." Busy? I had taken the week off in advance, just to be available for this. I stared at her. "You never even told me." She shrugged. "Well, it was kind of last minute." Liam chimed in. "Plus, it's not really your thing, right? You're not exactly the family games and Esmores type." "Yeah," Marcy added, sipping her wine. "You would have just sat in the corner on your phone anyway." I was frozen. A mix of embarrassment and disbelief crawled up my throat, choking me. They weren't sorry. No one apologized. Not even fake sympathy. Just a bunch of half excuses and dismissive tones like I was the unreasonable one for being hurt. I looked around at them. My blood. My family. And I didn't see a single person who cared. I smiled. Just a little. And walked over to the fireplace. Unzipped the bag. "I brought gifts," I said, voice steady. "I spent weeks picking them out. Imported items. Personalized. Labeled." The room perked up. My cousins glanced over. My aunt's eyes widened when she spotted the recognizable brand boxes. My dad stood up from the couch. I pulled each one out, called out their names, handed them the box. Let them hold it. They cooed. "Oh wow, is this real leather? You didn't have to go this big." "Wait, this is engraved." I nodded calmly. Let them unwrap the bows. Let the paper fall. Then, as Aunt Denise clutched her scarf to her chest, I extended my hand. "Can I see that for a moment?" She hesitated, but handed it over. I placed it back in the duffel. "Adam," she asked. I turned to Liam. The espresso machine? He frowned. Are you seriously? I didn't answer. I just held out my hand. One by one, I took them all back. Calm, polite, surgical. Marcy scoffed. What is wrong with you, Adam? You're right, I said, zipping the bag slowly. I don't belong here. I stood up, adjusted my coat. No one moved. No one stopped me. But as I turned to leave, bag in hand, pulse pounding in my ears, I wasn't just taking the presents. I was taking something else with me. Something they didn't even know they'd lose. That was the moment everything began to unravel. As I stepped out into the freezing December night, snow crunching beneath my boots, I expected to feel triumphant. I thought maybe I'd feel powerful, even just a little. But I didn't. I felt hollow. The cold air hit my lungs hard. I stood on the porch for a second, staring at the house. The same house where I grew up, where we used to hang stockings along the banister, where my dad helped me build my first model rocket, where I used to sneak downstairs to catch Santa in the act. Now it looked like any other house on the block. Just bricks and lights and people who didn't see me. Not really. I got in my car, duffel bag beside me, and started the engine. I didn't drive away right away. I just sat there, watching the silhouettes through the frosted windows. Laughter inside. Someone turned the music up. A cousin danced. And I realized they weren't coming after me. No one even looked outside. That was what hit the hardest. The drive home was quiet. No radio. No podcasts. Just me, replaying every second of that party like a broken film reel. Every word. Every shrug. Every smile that meant nothing. When I got home to my apartment, I didn't even take off my coat. I dropped the bag by the door and just stood in my living room. That's when it all started to click. This wasn't new. It had never just been about the reunion. It wasn't even about the gifts. It was the culmination of years of being made to feel like the afterthought. The ghost at the dinner table. The one you only remember when you need a ride, or tech help, or a second opinion on someone's resume. I was useful, but I was never seen. I opened my laptop and pulled up the shared family photo album online. There were hundreds of photos. Birthdays, trips, graduations, the family beach vacation last summer, that time Marcy got promoted and they threw her a rooftop party. I wasn't in a single one. And not because I hadn't been invited. No, because I hadn't even known they happened. There was even one from 5 months ago, a dad's birthday surprise dinner. I dropped off a card that morning. No one said a word. I had been orbiting them for years, always just outside the frame. But that night, something in me broke. Not in a destructive way, in a cleansing way, like something heavy had finally snapped and let go. I realized I didn't need to keep begging to be invited to a table where they'd already decided I didn't belong. So I made a plan. I started with the gifts. Each item I had bought was returnable. I kept the receipts, just in case. But instead of sending them back, I redirected them. I found people who would actually appreciate them. The espresso machine? I donated it to the community center near my place, the same one that had helped me when I was between jobs a few years ago. The director cried when I told her. The scarf? I gave it to Ms. Bell, the elderly woman in my building who always offered me cookies and complained about the draft in her hallway. The watch? I mailed it, anonymously, to Mr. Jong, my high school teacher who once paid out of pocket so I could go on the robotics trip. I included a short note that just said, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." That felt better than handing them out at that party ever would have. But I wasn't done. See, while my family was happy to treat me like a second-class guest, they never had an issue using my resources. Over the years, I had helped all of them in ways I now saw as attempts to earn approval. I helped Dad set up his online business and built the back end myself. He never paid me. When Liam wanted to launch his podcast, I did all the editing and web setup. Again, no payment, just "You're the best, man." When Marcy's wedding website crashed a week before the big day, I rebuilt it in a single weekend. I had access. I had knowledge. And now, I had clarity. That night, I started revoking things. One by one, I logged into the back end of Dad's website and transferred the domain ownership out of my name. I sent him a message. You'll need to find your own hosting by the end of the week. Liam's podcast? I removed my admin access and deleted the backup files I'd been keeping on my server. All yours now. Good luck with the edits. Marcy's wedding gallery? Offline. I left a redirect page with a polite message. Site removed at the owner's request. And then, I opened the family group chat. Scrolled through years of messages, mostly people talking over me or ignoring me completely. Then I posted one final message. Hey everyone, thanks for making it so clear where I stand. I'll make sure to honor that moving forward. Happy holidays. I left the group. I didn't get any messages for the first 2 days. Then a couple of cousins texted, asking what was going on. I responded politely, but I didn't explain. I didn't know them that. By New Year's Eve, my mom finally reached out. A short text, "Can we talk?" I didn't reply, because while they were playing catch-up, something unexpected had happened. The community center posted a thank you note online for the espresso machine. They'd set up a little coffee station for their morning programs. Ms. Bell knit me a pair of gloves in return for the scarf. Mr. Zhang emailed the school staff, saying someone had reminded him why teaching still mattered. For once, the people who barely knew me made me feel seen. That's when I realized, maybe I had taken something more important than presents with me when I left that party. Maybe I'd taken back my worth. It didn't take long for the silence to crack. By the second week of January, my phone started buzzing more frequently. First with simple pings from unknown numbers, then with voicemails that went from cheerful to concerned to just short of panicked. My dad left a voicemail that started calm. "Hey, Adam. Hope you're doing okay. Listen, the website's down, and I've got a few clients emailing me about broken links. Could you give me a call when you get a chance?" 2 days later, Adam. "Seriously, I don't know what you did, but this is costing me business. You need to fix it. This isn't a joke." Then, a text from Liam. "Hey bro, no idea why you removed access to the pod files, but episode 10's gone and our sponsor's asking questions. Can you just send me the backups? I'll handle it from here." I didn't answer. I wasn't being petty. I wasn't out for revenge. I was just done playing tech support to a family that only noticed me when something broke. I had kept them running like a silent engine, but now that I'd stopped, the machine began to stutter. Marcy's message came next. A string of texts that started with faux concern. "Hey, just realized the wedding site isn't working. Guests are trying to access the gallery and RSVP list. Can you check it?" Then, "I have sponsors linked to that page. What are you doing?" Then, "What is your problem, Adam? Why are you acting like this?" I didn't answer that either. I just archived the thread and closed my laptop. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. People like them don't like when their comfort is disrupted. When the free labor, the tech lifeline, the backup plan walks out the door. The real fallout began on a Sunday morning. I had just come back from the gym when there was a knock on my apartment door. Not the polite kind. The hard, rapid kind you hear when something's urgent or desperate. I opened it to find my mother standing in the hallway. Coat unzipped, cheeks red, breathing fast like she'd run the stairs instead of taking the elevator. "Adam," she said. Her voice cracked like she hadn't prepared what to say next. "Can we talk?" I stared at her. It had been almost a month since the party. A month of nothing but silence, until they needed something. Still, I stepped aside and let her in. Maybe out of curiosity, maybe out of habit. She sat on the edge of the couch like she didn't quite belong there. Her eyes scanned the room, the minimal decor, the framed diploma, the wall of books. It probably surprised her. I don't think she'd ever really noticed who I'd become. She didn't compliment anything. She didn't even ask how I was. She launched straight in. "Your father is really upset," she began, like that was my problem. "You pulling the site offline like that? You've cost him thousands already. He has appointments backed up for weeks and no way to confirm bookings." I raised an eyebrow. I gave him notice. "A full week." "Well, he didn't expect you to follow through." I blinked. "So I was just supposed to keep maintaining everything forever? For free?" Her face tightened. "You never said you wanted to be paid." "I never said I wanted to be invisible either," I said softly. She flinched, just a little, but then gathered herself. "Look, Adam, I know you're upset, but this whole thing is just a big misunderstanding. We didn't mean to leave you out of the reunion." I tilted my head. "Didn't mean to? You had group chats, carpool plans, matching shirts. That doesn't just happen accidentally." She paused. "Well, we thought you'd feel out of place. You never really seemed comfortable at those kinds of things. So instead of asking me, you just assumed." Again, silence. She shifted uncomfortably. "Marcy said you were acting cold, that you embarrassed her at the party." I laughed. Not loud, just bitter. I embarrassed her? For what? Reclaiming gifts I bought with my own money. She looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't. Instead, she tried the guilt angle. "You know, your father's not sleeping well, and your brother's podcast deal might fall through. And your sister had to take down her wedding portfolio. She's devastated. I stood up. I'm sorry they're struggling. I am. But none of them, not once, asked how I was doing. No one thought to include me, or check on me, or even thank me for everything I've done over the years. Her voice dropped. We didn't think you needed it. I met her eyes. Everyone needs it. She looked away, suddenly unsure. That's when I realized she didn't come here to apologize. She came here to reset the clock, to patch the leak and get the engine running again. But something had changed in me. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was clear. I walked to the door and held it open. She stood slowly. Her mouth opened like she wanted to say something else, some last-minute save, but nothing came out. So she walked out, and I closed the door. But that wasn't the last time I saw her. Because later that week, my brother showed up, and he wasn't nearly as calm. 3 days later, just after sunset, I heard pounding on my door again. This time louder, faster, urgent in a way that didn't just demand attention but expected it. I didn't need to check the peephole. I already knew who it was. I opened the door, and there stood Liam, my older brother, 6 feet of frustration in a leather jacket and a half-charged phone clenched in his hand. His face was flushed, eyes stormy, and he didn't even wait for an invitation before pushing past me into the apartment. Dude, he snapped, spinning around. What is wrong with you? I closed the door slowly behind him. Come in, Liam. Nice to see you too. No, cut the crap. You ruined everything. My podcast files are gone. My backup episodes? Deleted. Do you even understand how many hours of work that was? I do, I said calmly. I edited most of them. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again, sputtering. Okay, fine, yeah, but still. Why would you do this? Why punish me just because you're mad at mom and dad? That made me laugh, cold and short. Punish you? Liam, I didn't punish anyone. I just stopped helping. He waved his phone at me. You think this is just about helping? I had a sponsor lined up. This was finally going somewhere. I've spent years building it. Yeah, I nodded. And who was helping you build it, Liam? Who stayed up until 2 a.m. fixing your audio issues? Who designed your logo? Who set up your merch page? Your website? Your entire backend? He flinched like he wanted to argue, but he knew it was true. I continued. You never once offered to pay me. Never even said thank you. Just texted me when something broke like I was tech support on call. He started pacing. You could have said something. I did. Plenty of times. You just weren't listening. He stopped in his tracks, staring at me like I'd grown horns. So what? You're just cutting us all off now. I looked at him and said quietly, I'm setting boundaries. He scoffed. Oh, come on, man. You're being dramatic. You got left out of one reunion. Big deal. You always hated those things anyway. Did you ever stop to ask why? I said, did you ever wonder how it felt to be the one no one talks to at dinner? The one who's never asked to give a toast, or help decorate, or even pose for family photos? You all made me feel like a guest in my own family. He looked uncomfortable now. He opened his mouth, then paused. We didn't mean to. Exactly, I said. You never meant to. You just did it anyway. Over and over. Silence. For a second, something in his eyes softened. Just for a second. Okay, he said finally. Maybe we were crappy to you. Maybe we didn't treat you right. But this. He gestured around. This is overkill, Adam. You're shutting us all out. You're acting like none of us ever mattered. I sighed and leaned against the counter. You did matter. That's why it hurts so much. That stopped him. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. And I could see something flickering behind his expression, not quite guilt, not quite understanding. Maybe both. He rubbed the back of his neck. So what now? We're just done. I walked to my desk, picked up a flash drive from the drawer, and held it out. All your raw files are on here. I didn't delete them. I just removed them from my server. It's yours now. No backups. No edits. You'll have to do the rest yourself. He took it, hesitant. You're serious. I am. He looked down at the drive, then back up. You know, you were always the smart one. I just didn't think you'd be the one to walk away. I smiled faintly. I didn't walk away, Liam. I stopped chasing people who kept moving further and further out of reach. He didn't have a response to that. He turned toward the door, hesitated, then said over his shoulder, You're not coming to Dad's birthday dinner, are you? No, I said. I wasn't invited. This time, he didn't deny it. He left quietly. And just like that, the last thread snapped. The next few months were quiet in a way I hadn't felt in years. Not the lonely kind of quiet, but the peaceful kind. No surprise texts asking for help with a crashed site. No frantic voicemails about broken links or forgotten logins. No guilt trips disguised as family banter. For once, I had space to breathe. And in that space, I built something. I launched my own podcast, not about tech, but about people. About stories like mine. Family estrangement. Boundaries. Healing. I told stories about invisible siblings, about scapegoats, about what happens when you stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. I didn't think anyone would listen, but they did. Slowly, the messages started trickling in, strangers thanking me for putting words to what they'd felt for years. People from all over the country who had also been left out, overlooked, taken for granted. It became something bigger than me. And one day, while checking the podcast inbox, I saw a name I hadn't expected. Subject: you were right. It was from my dad. The email was short. Awkward. No greeting. Heard your podcast. Didn't know you felt that way. I guess I never asked. Your mother misses you. So do I. If you ever want to talk, just talk. No pressure, let me know. I stared at it for a long time. Then I archived it. Maybe one day I'd respond. Maybe not. Because for once, the silence was mine to break, or not. The choice was mine. 6 months after that holiday party, I got invited to a different kind of gathering. Not from my family. From the community center. They were hosting a donor appreciation event. Nothing fancy, just coffee and pastries and a few thank you speeches. Ms. Bell was there in her new hand-knit shawl. Mr. Jong too. A few volunteers, a few regulars. When the director introduced me as one of the most quietly generous souls we've ever met, I felt something tighten in my throat. Not pride, not even emotion, just peace. Because I wasn't invisible anymore. Not to them, not to myself. And in the end, that's what I took with me that night. Not just the gifts, not just my dignity. I took myself back, every piece they tried to make smaller. And I never gave it back.